Hey everyone, and welcome to Journey to 1 Million. I'm Lucia Jr., CPA, CEO, and I'm the reluctant front guy of an ecosystem of companies all focused on one thing: helping financial advisors help families retire with clarity and confidence. This series, well, it's the real story, the behind the scenes with no filter, all the wins, the mistakes, the lessons I've learned, and the lessons I'm still learning. But before any of that makes sense, you need to know where this mission actually began. And so let's start at the beginning. So I grew up in San Diego, California, the same city I call home today. My dad's family was from Philly, but he came west as a teenager and built something special here. Not just a business, a name, a reputation. He hosted radio shows, he did TV spots, Saturday morning seminars. Everywhere I went, people knew Ray Lucia. I'd be at the grocery store and some dude would stop me. He'd say, "You're Ray's kid, right? Tell him I love the show." I didn't realize it at the time, but I was growing up inside of a movement, one built on education, service, and discipline. So here's a memory I'll never forget. When I was a kid, maybe 10 or 11 or so, I'd go to my dad's Saturday morning seminars. We'd show up early, set up the chairs, test the microphones, make sure the pastries were out and the projector was working. All that stuff. And then people would come in, dozens of them, sometimes even hundreds. And they didn't come for the donuts, right? They came for the ideas. And watching my dad teach the bucket strategy, then watching people walk out with confidence about their retirement, that's when I realized it. Advice really can change lives. That planted a seed, but I didn't know it yet. But it was there. And after I graduated from Loyola Marymount University, go Lions, I graduated with an accounting degree, and then I joined Deloitte in downtown LA. It's a prestigious accounting firm. They provide great training, and I worked hard. I recruited, I brought in business, I tried to make a name for myself. And then one day, my partner in charge told me to stay inside my box. That moment changed everything because, I wasn't built for boxes. I wanted to think freely, lead boldly, and build something of my own. But here's the thing that really pushed me over the edge. I'm sitting in the Deloitte office one afternoon on the 15th floor, downtown LA, and you wouldn't believe this, I heard my dad's radio show playing.
The Ray Lucia Show.
It was throughout the office. Accountants, some of which I've never even met, were listening to my dad. And I thought, if he can educate and entertain a bunch of accountants at Deloitte, certainly he could do this across the country. And that's when I decided to leave the cubicle and build my own vault. What a day, Pops.
Having a good time, huh?
Yeah,
Cheers.
So, it's always great to hang out and sit by the pool.
It's a rough life, I say.
So, it'd be great, you remember back the late 90s, early 2000s.
It wasn't a rough life.
I just came working with you after my, stint at Deloitte, and, great timing, for me. Leave Deloitte in February 2000. We all know what happened in March 2000.
Yeah, it was fun.
The .com bubble burst.
Uh-huh.
And I remember seeing that little tiny TV.
Yeah.
Like a CRT, the old tube TVs, 17-inch maybe. That might have been big back then.
It probably was.
And the market just going down every day. And I was an accountant, did a little bit of financial planning, a little bit of asset allocation, but I wasn't really tuned into the markets. Not anywhere like I've been lately in my career. But, and I go, after a week or so of this, I go, "Hey, Dad, did you unplug the phones? You remember this?"
Yeah.
"Did you unplug the phones?"
Yeah.
You're like, "Why?" I'm like, "I figured the market's not doing so good, and You didn't unplug the phones,
Yeah.
and and what'd you tell me?
I said, Ray, that's called buckets of money.
That's right. And that's when it all clicked, because I saw you over the years growing up, helping set up to your seminars. Saw you on local TV, and then that was when it clicked for me, that really what you were doing was helping change investor behavior, and for their own good, because you would always say people do the wrong things at the wrong time for the wrong reasons.
That's right.
And so and we did this a while ago on our podcast, where you kind of went through the history of how you came up with it. And
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. But on this subject of behavioral, I'm happy to go into that. But it's interesting because way back when, 30, 40, 50 years ago, nobody talked about behavioral science. But since baby boomers began retiring, I think it's like 10,000 a day since 2011. That's still going to continue, I think, for 2 or 3 more years. 10,000 people retiring every single day. All the academics came in and started studying this stuff like crazy.
And you were way ahead, because you were studying retirement income planning before it was popular.
Well, and that brings me to the whole origin story, because that was kind of I don't know, for a while there, I was really, really frustrated, because I had a client come in, husband and wife, right after the 1987 crash. Remember, down 22% in one day. Everybody was freaked out.
So I remember, but I was a little young back then.
You were.
I remember Dad coming home not being too happy.
Well, what happened, your mom and I were in Maui. So we're in Maui enjoying the sunshine, and Melissa calls me and then leaves a message on my phone. I call her back, what's going on? She says, are you checking the markets? No, I'm in Maui. She said the whole world is collapsing. The markets are going down, clients are upset, and everything was going crazy. So it kind of ruined the vacation. And when I came back, I had clients come in, and the one in particular that really got to me said they pulled all their money out of the market, and I lost them as a client, and they never came back, and they're probably still not in the market. And I said, you know what? I don't want to live like this. I got to come up with a different way to play.
A better way. One that's more sane and logical, yet academically supported.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. So I started reading a lot of books, Burton, Malkiel. I read all the books that you could read, and I studied all the graphs. And I saw this chart one day, and it showed, what happened to the S&P. And I think I read in Malkiel's book that if you retired in 1973, which was when I first started in the business, if you retired in 1973, it took 12.7 years for an investment in the stock market to have equaled the return of risk-free T-bills. And I go, whoa, risk-free. I love that. If I could find a way to make sure my clients could, at least statistically speaking, end up with a risk-free investment over that 12.7 years, and that's when the light bulb went on. The stock market, if you invest in the stock market, I would just say, if you invested in stocks and you could hold, don't touch it, for 12.7 years, then you know what? Statistically speaking, you've dated back all the way to 1973. You went through that ugly stagflation bear market. Now, it didn't compete with inflation necessarily, but you didn't lose any principal. That's what started the whole thing.
That was the whole idea, was come up with a way to explain what's actually pretty complicated retirement income planning in a way that people could really understand, digest, and take action.
Yeah.
Right?
And so then later on, we saw some Ibbotson charts somewhere. I read that in all of history, there had never been like a 15-year period, virtually never, ever a 15-year period where stocks had lost money. That was even better. So that's what got the ball rolling. So we started this bucket strategy, right? You have a bucket number one, that was super safe money, and you spent it over the originally it was first 6 years, and then bucket two was the second 6 years.
That got you 12-ish, yeah.
Intermediate term bonds and stuff like that. So it was like super safe, pretty safe, risky. Doesn't get more sophisticated than that.
Right.
But in reality, it does. It does, because filling the buckets and the strategy behind it and how you rebalance and rising equity glide paths, all of that stuff that we did, we talked about it in the seminars, it hadn't been totally proven out until a few years later.
Right. And now, like one of my favorite research studies, I think it was Morningstar, that said if you can get a retiree through the first 15 years,
That's right.
they have a 99% chance that they're going to be successful, or only 1% chance of failure when they do the Monte Carlo thing and all that stuff.
I read that study. I read that study even before you brought it up to me. I think I may have even sent it to you, because the guy's name was kind of funny. It's Jeffrey Patak, P-T-A-K. He's a CFA, super smart guy. Morningstar, of course, does tremendous research, as do many others. And that just solidified a strategy that we started, what, 25, 30 years ago?
Well, you started. I kind of came in around 25 years ago. You remember the old little Buckets of Money booklet?
Yeah. The very first bucket strategy booklet.
I think I've got one probably right over here in my office. I got to find that.
Yeah, it's a relic. But it was a little booklet that explained how the strategy worked in very simplified terms.
And what you did was phenomenal, coming up with the approach and the strategy. And coming out of Deloitte, my CPA mindset, it was all about process. What I really enjoyed about learning about Buckets of Money, then became the bucket strategy, it was about a repeatable process. And how I was thinking about your business, then ultimately the business I acquired and became Lucia Capital Group, and now Quotient Advisor Partners, it was, how can I scale? How can I scale what you started to be able to help even more people? Because what you do is phenomenal. We syndicated your radio show. We got you on, national television shows, CNBC and so forth. Yeah, it was about process and how it could scale and take your legacy of what you started and take it to the next level. Help more people by helping financial advisors.
Well, that was a brilliant move on my part, bringing you in, because you have those skills and that talent, and I think your education and your work at Deloitte gave you a different perspective. Because what did I know about scale? I was a guy that was on radio and television.
Well, I didn't know anything else about scale except for Deloitte was scaling off of me.
Yeah.
I remember I'd be calling you, 4:00 in the morning on my way home, and I did the math. I could have made more hourly, flipping burgers at In-N-Out Burger, and I realized, wait a second, how are they figuring this out, right? How are they making money off of my back? And I'm looking at how they're billing a few $100 an hour for a kid right out of school. I'm like, I'm not worth that much, right out of school. I felt like I really was, but from a client perspective, and how they scaled and how partners had multiple partners per assistant and so forth and so on. And so I looked at that and I said, well, how can I apply it to your business? And then take it so ultimately we can help more people. And today it's the bucket strategy as really a business system, a repeatable process that advisors can adopt, get their clients speaking the same language as they are, and get their staff speaking the same language as the client is and the advisor is. And so that the communication is aligned so that business gets done more efficiently, and you create a flywheel effect so that you end up helping more people. And if I can help in just one additional advisor, that could mean 100 or 200 more clients to my ultimate vision, which is being able to say that I've helped 1 million American households with their retirement with the help of the financial advisors that we influence.
It's interesting because there's a fellow that I trained in buckets. I must have been 15, 20 years ago. He was with a different firm. He wasn't in my company at all. And he called me one day. You'll remember this now, 4 or 5 years ago. And he was frustrated with the growth that he and his firm, he had a family company like ours. And I'll never forget, he started, talking to me, and he was complaining. I said to him, Joe, get your butt on a plane, bring your kids out here, and you got to talk to my son. And you worked with him from that point forward, And you know what he told me the other day? We're still good friends. He's a drummer. I'm a guitar player.
Yeah.
We've gigged together.
You guys need to create like the Bucketeers band.
Yeah, we might do that someday. But he called me the other day, and it was really rewarding to me, because he said, since joining up with your team, you're now called Quotient team, their business has doubled. This is in like 3 or 4 years. It's pretty incredible.
You know, and that's just the power of scale, right? You look at these advisors; they do the best they can. You had the same problem, but you had the guts, right? You invested in your son. Most people don't have an opportunity to do that. They have to think about investing in some perfect stranger in order to get scale, free up their time, and then there's a J curve effect, right? You lose money before you make money, and if that person doesn't work out, that J gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And, you know, we can tell stories till we're blue in the face about how much money I lost you on technology spends and stuff like that.
I know.
But you had the guts to do it. And what's great about Joe and the team is they didn't have to make that investment.
Right.
They just had to affiliate. And they affiliated with me and with our team at Quotient. And the rest is kind of history. They got instant scale from leveraging the decades of work that our team has put in building this back office, front office, middle office, technology, marketing, portfolio management type solution for our own financial advisors, and how we built a $2 billion wealth management business and now scaling it with the help of other financial advisors and their clients. And that's really the story about Quotient Advisor Partners and where this is headed. So,
well, I also, as you well know, once I retired, I did some mentoring, and I mentored this young man, age 23. He called me the other day too. He's 33 now. He's got 2 kids.
he does.
2 kids. And he said, remember when I was in your office, I had flown him up here one time. I did some work for his dad, who was a big plan administrator and all that stuff. And he said to me, you know, when you first met me, I was sitting in your office. I saw your books back there, and I saw the microphone on your desk because you broadcasted your radio show from there sometimes. And I said, I want to be like you. I said, how long is it going to take me to do that? I said, 10 years. I said, you know, you're going to probably hate this business. It was just fresh. You're going to hate this business the first 2 or 3 years. You're going to want to probably quit every single week. And I'm telling you that now. But if you ever need, you know, some help, just give me a call. I'll help you through it. He called me literally 5 times a day for 3 years.
Hey, if I wasn't a Lucia and Ray Lucia said you can call me, I would do the same.
He called me the other day. He said, I just want you to know it's been our 10-year anniversary from when I sat in your office.
Yep.
And see that microphone you had? Remember that? I'm doing a podcast now. I've written 2 books. He's doing guest speaking and traveling the country speaking. And he said, I just crossed through my $1 million in recurring revenue mark.
Yep.
A solo guy up in the Northwest.
Yeah. So
Good kid too. Really a great guy.
I love him. He was an employee
Yes.
of the firm, and he wanted his own brand. And he came to me one day and said, hey, I want to do my own thing. I got this vision. How do I do it? I said, well, first, if you want to take clients with you, the right thing to do is to acquire that business from me. But I'm not asking you to buy all the business, just buy the advisor portion of the business, and I'll continue to operate the back office, the platform business. You become an independent financial advisor under your own brand with all the support of the firm that you've been accustomed to. And, you know, we kicked around some numbers, and one day I get a FedEx envelope sitting on my desk. I open it up, and here's a check. A check. I mean, what a man. You know, he went to the bank or wherever he got the money. He wrote me a check. He bought me out, and we're still partners to this day. And yeah, the podcast, we produce it for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we help him with a lot of his social media. You know, I've guided him with his vision on the books over the years, and give him some marketing resources on all that stuff. And he got his first viral post. He got
Really?
about 200,000 views on
Really?
one of his social media posts recently. And so, you know, that's just really
That's probably why he called me today.
That's probably the real reason. He wanted to brag a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm super proud of him too. And to be able to help one group of advisors halfway across the country, actually all the way across the country, double their business. And a solo advisor, he's got an assistant as well. Build his personal brand. He also crossed over $100 million in advisory assets from zero, all on his own, through centers of influence, his social media, his lead gen, his speaking engagements, his books, and all that other stuff. Pretty awesome. So, but that's really the power of what we're doing. And I look through that, right? It's not just the advisors. I obviously keenly focus on helping the advisors, but they're there to help their clients. And so that's another notch on the way to, 1 million American households, helping them with their retirement through the advisors that we influence. And so super proud of that, and, super humble and super proud of what you've done and the legacy you've built, and, happy to carry the torch forward and for, that's hopefully many, many years, decades to come.
It's been a great blessing, no doubt about it.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out with me by the pool.
All good.
And
Pretty nice pool too.
I'm drinking the pappy with my pappy.
Okay.
Cheers one more time, Pops.
God bless.
Love you. To learn more about my father and our professional journey together, go ahead and check out episode 1 of my podcast, Vaulted Views. But fair warning, I had a little too much bourbon, and I was pretty intimidating interviewing my idol for the very first episode. I may have even dropped a few F-bombs. Every family business faces its defining moment, and for me, that moment came in 2006. I'd grown from being an unlicensed assistant to a top producing financial advisor, and then eventually became the vice president of the firm. But growth creates friction, right? I mean, I was building a W-2 financial advisor channel alongside my dad's legacy 1099 financial advisor model. The goal for me was never to replace his old model. It really was just to expand the business. But some of the 1099 advisors, they didn't see it that way. And by 2008, some of the advisors started leaving in the middle of the night even. And the tipping point came for me when one of our largest producers lifted his entire team out while my parents were on vacation. And I'll never forget that morning. I looked myself in the mirror and said, "This is your time to lead." I could have taken what I call the low view, blame, frustration, even fear, or I could take the vaulted view, rise above it, rally the team, and rebuild. And so I remember when my mom taught me how to play chess when I was young. She taught me that the game really isn't about reacting faster, it's about thinking further. That's how I lead today, always thinking 8 steps ahead. And so now it's 2017, and I had acquired the business from my father back in 2010. And from now on paper, everything looked almost perfect. Multiple companies I'm running, mutual funds that I've created, done some acquisitions, I'm getting industry recognition. But in reality, I was burning out. I weighed over 300 pounds. I was managing more than I could even handle. I built an empire, but I lost connection to really what mattered most. My wife reminded me of something during that time, and she said, "Honey, no matter what happens, we can always go back to 919 Main Street." That was the first tiny apartment where we had nothing. We were happy though. And that reminder, that's what I call the 919 Main Street mindset. True wealth isn't measured by your bank account. It's measured by what's important to you. I spent 2 years rethinking everything, simplifying, streamlining. I sold some divisions of the firm. I merged our broker-dealer. I restructured it under a relationship with LPL. It's been fantastic. And it gave me back my freedom and my focus. That was my awakening, because true success isn't having more. It's really about having clarity. And that's when I got crystal clear on my mission, to help 1 million American households retire with confidence. But here's the thing, I can't do it alone. And that's why I've built an ecosystem that helps financial advisors grow, scale, and most importantly, serve with purpose. Quotient It isn't just a brand, it's really an ecosystem. We have the community, it's where advisors share ideas and grow. We have the retirement strategy, which is where your investments and business processes really come to life. And the Advisor Partners platform, where independent financial advisors scale into enterprise firms. Every part of Quotient exists to help advisors go further, faster. All right, so I know what you're thinking. Where's the value bomb in this episode? And so, if you're a financial advisor watching this, I want you to really hear this, like really, really hear this. And you know it already, but it helps to hear it because clients don't pay you for stock market returns. They actually pay you for clarity, for having a strategy. And clarity is what keeps clients invested. It's what helps make better decisions. It really is what helps make better retirements. And when you give a client a strategy that ties things to their own personal benchmark and not some stock market benchmark like the S&P, that's really what changes relationships. And we'll learn more in the future about the bucket strategy. That's really what the bucket strategy can help you do. And so financial advisors who are a part of our Quotient ecosystem, you have access to these tools for free. And we want you to help more people retire with confidence and clarity. And if you can do that, you can help me along my journey with helping 1 million American households retire with confidence. So what I've found over the years is that most financial advisors operate from what I call the low view. They end up reacting to markets and they chase performance for their clients. They end up fighting fires instead of building systems, and they often feel like they're just stuck in the weeds. However, when you rise above the noise and you elevate your perspective, you start to see things differently. You start to think differently. You build differently. And the vaulted view is really the advisor who sees clearly, and they communicate clearly, and they lead their clients and their people clearly. And you know what? Thinking back, that's really what my father's bucket strategy did and why it works so well. He wasn't selling investments or products. At the end of the day, he was offering clarity. And clarity is what I found to be our path to helping 1 million American households.